it's Dr. Rebecca Barrett Fox, your professor for Sociology of Gender. This week we're examining the idea of the gender binary. Binary just means that something is divided into two parts, seen as opposites. A gender binary describes societies and cultures that view gender in terms of two, male and female. One or the other, never both, never something in between, and never something other. If this is the system you're socialized into, it can be hard to think that there are other ways of constructing gender. But there are. And the fact that there are, and across history have been, other ways of organizing gender tells us that gender is a social construction. If gender were quote-unquote natural, all humans would do it the same. But like everything humans do, from the way we have sex to what we eat and how we defecate, that is, even the most basic bodily functions, gender isn't natural. The binary system we have historically used in the US is just one way of organizing people into genders. In fact, the fact that we organize people at all by gender is a cultural choice. Traditionally in the US, we organize people by their primary sex characteristics, that is, genitals. They're primary because they're the first ones we see. Primo, number one, primary first. Later, around puberty, secondary sex characteristics develop. Breasts, pubic hair, body hair, facial hair, lowered voices, and with even lower voices for boys, Adam's apples. With sonogram technology, even before a child is born, we can know with a high degree of confidence if that child is going to be male or female. We assume that a person who has a penis will also have particular internal organs, a prostate gland, vas deferens. We assume that this person will, at puberty, grow chest hair, but not breasts, would develop a deep voice. We assume that this person has a higher level of testosterone than estrogen, XY chromosomes rather than XX ones. And because we can't look inside someone's genes or hormones, or for that matter, even under their clothes, we assume these facts about them based on their things like their name, if they're a John or a Carlos or a Trey, their haircut, and their clothing. Likewise, we assume that a person with a vagina but not a penis will have ovaries and a uterus inside, will grow breasts but not chest hair at puberty, will have higher levels of estrogen than testosterone, and will have XX chromosomes but not XY ones. But again, since we don't know this about the person, we'll assume these facts if the person goes by certain names. Mary, Jessica, Charisse. They wear their hair a certain way or wear certain clothing, but not others. In fact, most of us don't know much, if anything, about our internal organs, our hormones, or our chromosomes. We know our primary and secondary sex characteristics, and we generally assume that our other sex characteristics align in ways that we expect them to. But that's a big assumption, and it's not one that everyone can make. In fact, about 1 out of every 1,250 births is of a child who does not have clear primary sex characteristics. In these cases, doctors in the US, historically, with or without parental input, performed surgeries to conform the infant's genitals to social expectations. Children born with atypical genitals underwent surgeries, often ones they never knew about, to make them look typical. This practice came under great criticism as adults who are intersex found themselves suffering physical and mental health consequences of these medical interventions. I want to stress that these are the examples we see at birth. Other examples of intersex happen differently. For example, in the eastern highlands of Papua New Guinea, there's a community of people where genetic mutation results in a 5-alpha reductase deficiency. These children present as female at birth. They're assigned the female sex at birth, with vaginas and not penises. However, around puberty, they begin to develop visible penises. Traditionally, communities dealt with this change by reassigning gender to these children. More recently, some communities have begun to recognize them as intersex. Populations with similar genetic differences live in the Dominican Republic, that's Papua New Guinea, And there are historic records of some First Nations in the contemporary U.S. with similar kinds of sex diversity. Intersex people are the easiest to see examples of a challenge to the gender binary. If sex isn't always binary, and unless you have seen your internal organs and tested your hormones and analyzed your chromosomes, those are just some of the ways we determine if someone is male or female. Well, then you don't really know if all these ways of measuring sex, quote unquote, agree that you're male or female. Well, if sex isn't binary, it's even less likely that gender is. The term gender spectrum describes the diversity of gender orientations and identities. Many of us identify as cisgender, that is, our gender identities as men or women align with our sex characteristics of male and female. People who have been assigned one sex at birth based on primary sex characteristics but have a sense of self aligned with another are transgender. But many people have a more fluid or complex gender identity than even that, not identifying strongly or permanently with either or any gender. One word to describe this is gender non-binary. And there are many ways of being gender non-binary. Though we're just starting to see public discussion of gender non-binary people and systems in the U.S., there have always been people who have challenged the binary system of gender in the U.S. This is a gift even to cisgender people, who, because of the advocacy of gender non-binary people, are freer. Well, this week, as you learn about binary systems and challenges to them, if you have any questions, please let me know.